Hello, let's look at the plot of Blood Brothers in a fair bit of detail, just to kind of give you an overview of the key events of the play. Um, so this is obviously a musical. It tells the story through a combination of, um, you know, acting and moments, and also a little bit of obviously music. But certainly the first thing that we'd want to look at is the fact that we have Mickey and Edward. They are twins, and they're born to Mrs. Johnston. Okay, and Mrs. Johnston is this kind of struggling single mother who, is kind of behind on her payments. She lives in Liverpool, and generally life is quite tricky. She's already got quite a few children. She thinks, or doesn't at least think, that she can support any more. So she has her employer. She is employed by Mrs. Lyons. Okay, and Mrs. Lyons has her own struggles, namely, she struggles with fertility. Okay, she can't have children of her own. So they come up with this great and elaborate plan. Mrs. Johnston gives a twin to Mrs. Lyons. Okay, and that twin is Edward. Okay, that twin is Edward. So Edward leaves Mrs. Johnston's home and goes to live with Mrs. Lyons. Now Mrs. Lyons persuades Mrs. Johnston to keep this a secret, right? And the way that she does that is by telling her, essentially, sending a warning that if the twins find out that they are related, they will both die. So the story moves and kind of drives on, right? Now, Mickey gets raised in poverty. Edward gets raised in relative wealth. Really a sense of kind of comfort, right? But then, as they do, because they don't live that far away from each other, they meet, okay, and they become friends. And they form a pact where they call themselves blood brothers. They cut their little fingers and they put their fingers together and they become blood brothers, saying that they're going to remain best friends forever. Okay, it's quite sweet, really, when you think about it. Now, Mrs. Lyons sees this, she sees this friendship growing, and she starts to become kind of paranoid. We've got this paranoid Mrs. Lyons, okay? And she basically tells her husband, Mr. Lyons, that they have to leave. They have to leave this part of Liverpool, okay? Because, she says that it's just not working for her around here, but really it's because she's getting concerned about how close Mickey and Edward are growing. Now, coincidentally, around the same time, and I put coincidence question mark because is it coincidence or is it fate? Mrs. Johnston gets moved. She's in a council house. She gets moved, and she is moved near Edward. And so, as you can imagine, the boys reconnect. Okay, they reconnect. They become friends again. They rekindle their friendship. Now, around this time, Mickey falls in love with Linda. Okay, Linda is one of the girls. They're friends. And this is obviously very romantic and quite beautiful. They're young lovers and etc. etc. They start to grow. Edward goes to university. And Mickey starts to work a collection of kind of odd jobs, right? Odd jobs, sort of little jobs here and there. Now, Linda, around this time, as they have kind of grown up, she becomes pregnant. Okay, and so eventually Mickey and Edward get married. Mickey and Linda, sorry, get married. But with the baby on the way and all of this kind of going on, Mickey loses his job. And he is unemployed. Now, this is obviously a very stressful situation for him. So what does he do? Well, his brother is a criminal, and his brother is named Sammy. And Sammy offers him basically a role in a robbery. Okay? And because he's desperate, Mickey does it. He goes through with it. He takes part in this crime, but he gets caught. Mickey gets arrested. Okay? He goes to prison. And while he's in prison, he becomes hooked on antidepressants, okay? And they kind of really suppress his emotions and send him into a very dark and sad place. Now, Edward, at the same time, he's going through something fantastic. He's become a local councillor. And he's doing very well for himself, right? He secretly helps Linda, who obviously wants to see Mickey supported when he comes out of jail. But Mickey starts to become jealous. Mickey becomes jealous. He's probably, a little bit out of sorts. This drives Edward and Linda closer together. Okay, it drives them closer together. And at the conclusion of the play, Mickey accuses Edward of an affair with Linda. He brings a gun. They discover that they're twins. Mrs. Johnston reveals this. And sadly, Mickey kills Edward. And then he is killed by the police. So, there is the play for you. Thank you for watching.